Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So I'm getting ready to go out and do the evening chores. But first I want to share a recipe with you guys that I made the other day. It is for a cinnamony beef stew. Now this beef stew is very heavy on the beef. So you could serve it with some rice, some noodles, some mashed potatoes, and put it over the top like a meat sauce. So to make the stew, the first thing I did was I salt and peppered some beef stew meat. I did about 2.5 or maybe 2 3/4 pounds of beef. You can use anywhere between 2 and 3 pounds. I put about 3 tablespoons of coconut oil in my Dutch oven and heated that up, and then I browned the beef in batches, a little bit at a time, so that you wouldn't get all of the juices coming out of the meat, and actually basically boiling the meat instead of searing it and making it brown and flavorful. While those were cooking, I diced up an onion, 1 carrot, 2 stalks of celery. Once all of the beef was done, I put the diced vegetables along with 2 cloves of minced garlic into the Dutch oven, and I just cooked those in the drippings until the onion was just barely tender. Then I added the beef stew meat back into the pot, and I added 4 cups of beef broth. I added tomato paste, balsamic vinegar, thyme, sage, some more salt and pepper, bay leaves, some rosemary, and 2 cinnamon sticks. Then I brought all of this up to a boil, reduced the heat to a very low simmer, put a lid on slightly cracked, and let it go for about 1.5 hours until the meat was super tender. Now while it's cooking, you do have to kind of check it, make sure that the liquid doesn't cook down too much. You do want it to thicken and kind of concentrate, but you don't want your pot to go dry. So if it does look like it's getting close to that, you want to go ahead and add a little bit of water to it. Now of course, I'm still kind of doing the carnivore thing, ketovore thing. So when I made myself a bowl of it, I actually left most of the carrots in the pot for Mr. Smith to enjoy, and I just ate mainly the stewed beef. If you would like to make it, I will put a link to the recipe where you can get it on my website in the video description down below. So now I'm going to go throw on a hat, head on out to do chores, and I'm going to take you along because I want to talk about something. So first of all, I've had several people ask me now or comment about the difficulty of this property, and am I regretting moving to Arkansas, leaving Alabama? Some of those comments were pretty intense too. Maybe those comments came from people who haven't been around for a while, who don't know that when we bought our property in Alabama, there was nothing there but a house. There were no gardens, there were no animal shelters, there was no fencing, nothing. It was a house and land. Just like here. I spent 7 years building animal structures, animal fencing, building gardens, building up the soil. So does it mean we have to start all over? Yeah. Is it going to be a challenge? Oh yeah. Am I up for it? Certainly. Now, do I think starting over from scratch in my 50s is going to be easy? No. But I firmly, 100%, with every fiber of my being, fully believe that the Lord called us here to Arkansas. And when the Lord tells you to do something, you don't question it. The very word faith means to trust. If you have faith, it means you trust Him 100%. When the Lord calls you someplace and He has a mission for you, a job for you. He wants you to go somewhere, do something. It does not mean it's going to be easy. As a matter of fact, it may be harder than you could possibly imagine. And you may not think that you have the ability to do it. But he's not going to tell you to do something that you can't do. He's going to make a way, one way or another. And his plans for you may not be what you think they are. And I have to tell you, when the Lord tells you to do something and you're being obedient, there's going to be challenges and obstructions. Because when you're living for the Lord, not only do you have a relationship with the Creator, a Savior, a shelter in the storm, but you've also got an enemy. And that enemy does not want you to have that relationship, does not want you to have that salvation, does not want you to have that shelter in the storm. He wants to be the storm that makes you afraid. The last thing that I want when being obedient to the Lord, when the Lord says do something, is to look back at what I had. I won't even entertain the idea of regrets. Because all you need to do to have an idea of what Adonai thinks about that is read the story of Exodus, read Leviticus, read Genesis even. Because when he told Lot and his family, get out of Dodge, what happened? His wife looked back. They were told, don't even look back. She looked back and she was turned to a pillar of salt. I would rather eat salt than be salt. Literally, not figuratively, because we are called to be salt. But that's a whole different story. In addition to Lot's wife, look at the Hebrews. When the Lord brought them out of Egypt, where they had been in bondage, where their children were slaughtered because the Pharaoh was afraid of them. I mean, he brought them out through his mighty hand, through amazing miracles that they witnessed. They walked through the sea on dry ground, saw the water stand up for them. And yet they still complained, and yet they still said, what, were there not enough graves in Egypt? You had to bring us out here in the desert to die? I don't want to be that. I don't want the Lord to say, I told you to trust me and you're not trusting me. I want the Lord to look at me and be happy and say, good, you were obedient and you trusted me. So when challenges come up, there's boulders in the ground, there's drought, there's any number of things, puppies that show up. Anytime there's distractions, I am not going to look at those and say, nope, shouldn't have moved here. Because that would be the exact opposite of showing that trust to the Father. You know, when the Lord tells you to do something, you don't ask why. You just do it. And when we found this property on the internet, I had been praying, okay, Lord, if we're moving to Arkansas, even if the property isn't my dream property, even if it isn't what I would pick, I just want a place that my husband will love. I want him to love it. And I had seen this property and I didn't think my husband would like it. So I never showed it to him. And about 2 weeks later, because when I had seen it, it was listed as for sale by owner. About 2 weeks later, it popped up as being sold by a realtor. And it had been live for maybe an hour. And I was scrolling through the photos and Mr. Smith walked by, glanced at my computer and went, whoa, what's that? And I said, it's a property that just got listed. And he looked at the pictures and said, that's the one. That's the one. So I contacted our realtor, and our realtor came out immediately, walked the property, filmed it, and all of this. But before we even got to see those videos, I had jumped in Mr. Smith's car and was on the road. I was probably halfway to Arkansas by the time those videos were available for me to watch. Came the next morning, walked the property, and was just overwhelmed with a sense of peace and home. But despite that, throughout every step of the process of buying this property, I prayed, Lord, if that is not the place that we are supposed to be, let the sale fall through. There were any number of steps where us moving here could have fallen through. We might have not gotten the financing because we did not have enough money to pay cash for this house, or any house really, because we had not been saving up to move. We had no plans of ever moving again. I thought I was going to die and have my ashes spread in the pasture in Alabama. We had to go through the appraisal process. We had to have the house inspected more than once because we were doing a military VA loan. There are any number of things where this sale could have fallen through. And every step of the way, I said, Lord, if that's not where we're supposed to be, let it fail the inspection. Let it not be appraised. Let us not get financing every single step of the way. And yet, not only did every single step work out perfectly, but it worked out insanely perfectly. Like, we were coming here to see this property, and there was a road closure, and we couldn't get through, and had to take a 40-minute detour to get here, which would have only given us maybe 15-20 minutes to actually look at the property before the next people arrived, because there was somebody else coming to see the property, and they never showed up. So we were able to take our time, look at everything, see the challenges, see what we loved. And I mean, it was just one thing after another that just worked out amazingly well. Our home in Alabama was sold to the very first family who came and saw it. I just got an email from them the other day, and they are loving their new life. They are loving being out of the city and having a place for their children to grow up. They have stepped into homesteading life, and they are just thriving. And there are other things that I can't share with you, but there's things that I've prayed for a really long time. Now, I don't know all of the reasons why the Lord told us to come here. All I know is He did. But I can tell you that there's been a couple of things already, personal things, that I've prayed over for a really long time. And in the process of coming to Arkansas, those prayers have been answered. Now, and I don't know. There might very well be other reasons that the Lord wants us here. I have some ideas of what they could be, but until the Lord shows us, I won't know. But even if there are no other reasons, even if it is just the things that He has already answered, it would be more than enough. Because I can see things that are taking place for my family. And I am grateful. I am grateful for answered prayers. And I'm grateful for the challenge of a new property, a new homestead, in a beautiful place. This property may not be someone else's dream. Maybe they can't imagine themselves living here. Maybe there's too many spiders, too many snakes, too many scary predators. But I am absolutely at peace here. And it might take time to make this property all the things it could be. And who knows, maybe none of those things will happen. We don't know what the next year, the next month, the next week, the next hour brings. But do we trust the Lord? I do. And I will continue to work, and I will continue to be obedient, and I will continue to trust Him. And I'll do what I can. I have my list of things that I want to do for the property. But if they don't all come to fruition, that's okay. What matters the most is obedience and trust in the Father.